It is, folks. We are back. Hopefully,
We are.
colleague Mr. Sujiwan is on the other end of the line.
Loud and clear.
Good week.
It's not been too bad. It's been busy. Obviously, nearly Christmas, so lots of content to make.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. That sounds exciting. Yeah, this is the show that's on your radio, all about cars. We return once again. It's the #1 car podcast. That is first in its class. And yes, it's a very small class. In fact, you could say we're #1 in our field, and that's the field on a farm in Norfolk. But I digress. Yes, the show this week, we have a fantastic quiz. It's called The Versus League. Or Shh, Don't Mention the War. Yes, it's all about Central Europe's most prolific tourists, 1914 to 1918 and 1939 to 1945. The Germans. Or as Stan Borman would rightly say, the Germans. Europe's most successful car manufacturers and some makers of some precision machinery, like the Porsche 911, but also the creators of some downright awful vehicles, like the Trabant. I will attest, Simon. I'll be donning the red velvet suit left over from my days as a northern comedian on the club circuit and asking a young man from North London questions about Britain's favourite enemy. He could walk off with his weight in bratwurst, schnitzel and sauerkraut.
Excellent.
Before you ask, the final one isn't a reference to Angela Merkel. I thank you. You get it.
Here all week.
Here all week, twice on Wednesdays. Enjoy the fish. Also, in our festive run-up to Christmas, we've got a roundup of global news from 5-litre Hemis to 1,000-volt lithium in the car news. We again travel far and wide to bring you long-forgotten driving roads from across the globe that are not to be missed in lost highways. And of course, it wouldn't be the car show on your radio without me delving into what is on offer in the way of correspondence. I'm turning into Jimmy Savile in the mailbag. This week, we've added vitamin C. I'm definitely not turning into Jim.
Yeah, I don't think we can go there.
So, especially if Operation U-Tree are listening.
Vitamin C, you say?
Yes, vitamin C.
That's good, especially with this time of year. It sounds really medicinal. Yes, of course, we've survived yet another night out with the Car-Boyz at our worst Christmas party, and we survived, but the head of marketing didn't. Yes. We're fresh and ready for action. This week we have a fantastic kind of classic car section. This week it's a design classic. It's the Audi TT. We'll also be able to comment on the election as soon as this is broadcast, because it'll be after 10 o'clock, I'd have thought.
We'll keep it sort of as vague as possible, just in case it gets posted. But if you are listening to this show and it's going to influence you about which way to vote, then you're a sad character indeed. And I think your voting rights should be revoked.
Yes. So we may do that, but then again, we maybe not bothered to do that. Yeah. We'll see. I'm Simon Suderon, and now's the time. It's here for Iron Man to spread fear, vengeance from his grave, because the people once he's saved.
Oh, it's like Ozzy Osbourne was in the room.
Sharon!
I thought you'd retired. And I'm Richard Green, and raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles, and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favourite things. Oh, I feel like a novice nurse running over an alpine mountain top. And this is
Car-Boyz.
Now, my rant this week is rather subdued, part in fact to the fact I do not own an electric car, and because I should have really seen this coming for a long time. I don't like electric cars. I quite like them. Tesla makes some of the most exciting cars on the planet. Electric, hybrid cars. They also cost less than the standard petrol and diesel ones to run. And great, I'm a skinflint. I like to save cash. The BMW i3, I believe, is truly a great city car.
Funky.
Yeah, let's forget the G-Wiz. Let's forget the Nissan Leaf. They are the stillborn children of future motoring. What a frightening analogy, but they are. Instead, the question I'm asking this week is, who will charge my electric car and how much will it cost? Because according to the latest feedback from industry, growth in the UK's public electric car charger network will come from dedicated charger companies, utilities and the government rather than car makers. Yes, apart from the Ionity rapid charging network, which is funded by a consortium of 9 car makers, very few if any, of the 60-plus car brands operating in the UK are funding a charging infrastructure to speed up the adoption of electric cars. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders is arguing that charging points are the province of private network operators and the government. Okay, it's a polite way of saying get stuffed. But they're not wrong. If you think back to the 20th century, motorways in Germany, the United Kingdom, and the interstate out in America were all funded by taxpayers through the government. Ford or Mercedes were not going to pay for a new highway network to be built. That's the job of the government, they would argue, although they would encourage it to be used for the sale of their cars and in turn benefit from the use. It's sort of a chicken and an egg thing. A recent survey by What Car magazine linked buyers' caution to buy electric vehicles to sparse charging networks, alongside a range of anxiety issues over the shortage of affordable models and the actual range of the vehicles can do. The PSA Group in France, which owns Citroën, Peugeot DS, Vauxhall, have stated they're not the only ones to supply charging points, but specific infrastructure companies should actually do this. Which begs the question, if we have a short supply and high demand, will we therefore have only one thing? Increased prices. Will these prices be just above that of gasoline? Will oil companies such as BP, Shell, or supermarket petrol stations, gas stations, just switch their fueling stations to electric, diesel and petrol? Will they make electricity to fuel demand by burning oil at their own power stations, thereby moving the pollution and CO2 global warming from the city to locations where these new power stations operate? I know it all sounds a bit 1984 dystopian view of the future, but I'm only following a logical route which says at some point the government will need to step in because industry unregulated will answer to themselves and themselves only.
It's a bit weird because if you can remember, do you remember LPG cars?
I do.
There was a time where to get LPG was something ridiculous. It was like 20 pence a litre or whatever it may be. And the thing is, in this country, our fuel is taxed pretty heavily.
Yes.
So that money, I'm assuming, goes to the government. It gets distributed, used up on roads, helping little small furry animals, things like that. So then I'm assuming they'd have to tax the electric then that's going to these cars.
Yeah, I mean, if you think, certainly in regards to road tax, we're all going to still pay road tax. You're not going to have 100% car use and no road tax. Currently, 15% of your road tax that you pay for whatever vehicle you drive over 3 litres, it's probably £500 a year. You drive a Blue Motion Golf, that's probably Bluetooth Golf. It's very small. You have to be a very small person to get inside that Bluetooth. You probably spend £30 a year. 15% of that goes on roads, and the rest disappears into the coffers of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, in the same way that revenue on petrol does, which is quite heavy in this country. If you're listening in America, I think we pay double what you pay in Los Angeles, which I think is double what you pay outside of Los Angeles for fuel. It was always a case of what we paid a litre, you paid per gallon, and a litre is substantially smaller than a gallon. As electricity use increases, the other problem is you cannot rely on current electricity suppliers to produce more electricity. Electricity in the UK is at almost maximum output.
Yeah.
There is no room for error. There are very few power stations. You are starting to get brownouts in the UK where you just can't afford to supply everybody with electricity. And things like, there's always a joke, not so much now, television's changed, but when really, really important programs were shown, like the Queen's speech, just before the Queen's speech happened on Christmas Day, was a huge power surge as everybody in England turned on their kettle to make a cup of tea after they'd had their Christmas lunch. That's about 5 to 3. So the power companies were ready for that. Well, now I'm going to tell you, you're going to increase that by 20-fold if everybody has electric cars. So the electricity's got to come from somewhere. Renewables aren't going to cut it, so you're going to have to burn fossil fuels. It's not a holistic approach. The problem is, the news you and me are hearing is that car makers are going to stop producing petrol, gasoline, diesel, and hybrid cars. How does this work then? I'm seeing a gap between if everybody drives an electric car and the supply of charging stations, and what I'm trying to say is electric. You and me need to set up an electric company.
That's a good idea.
Let's buy an oil rig out in the North Sea. We'll have a little power station up there, and we'll just call it Car Electric for your cars. I think it's the way to go. I just don't think anybody's thought of this.
Yes, it's worrying, isn't it? They need to think quickly on this.
It would be nice. Shall we have some car news?
Yes, can we have some car music, please?
Hang on.
Car
Well,
music.
I'm trying to find it. Here we go. Oh, it's exhausting.
I love that key change in the middle of that. And first in, wow, I couldn't care less about millionaires news. A classic car dealer is locked in a high court battle with the super rich US collector of the world's most expensive car and its missing gearbox. A racing driver and supercar trader Gregor Fiskin, try saying that after a few beers.
Yeah, exactly.
Based in Kensington, West London, is fighting lawyer Bernard Carl over a £37 million sale of the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. Beautiful car.
Yes.
Just 39 of these cars were built by Ferrari between 62 and 1964, and the model is regarded as the holy grail for the world's wealthiest car collectors. Now, chassis number 3387 GT, the second GTO ever built, that's a little bit of pub trivia for you, is at the centre of the court fight. Mr. Ficken is suing seller Mr. Carl, demanding that the unique and special original gearbox, which had been removed, is now delivered to them. Fiskin claims when he bought the classic car, he understood the seller would do his best to source the gearbox. But the US lawyer says that he is under no obligation to do so after the pair fell out about where he would pick it up and who would pay for the shipping. It's a bit like eBay, but a bit more complicated.
Yes.
Fiskin's barrister, William Hooper, told the court the dispute relates to the GTO's original gearbox, which has not yet been delivered. It is such a beautiful car. I'm guessing this is the one. It's a blue GTO as well.
Yes.
Beautiful vehicle.
Where's the gearbox?
It's. I'm guessing it might be one of those like barn finds. It will be in a barn somewhere.
Well, I'd love to think that it's in like a really awful kit car somewhere. Like, it's in a Ford Cortina with a Ford Pinto engine. With like with a Robin Hood or Caterham body kit on top, a striker body kit. Sort of the thing's not worth £8,000. In satting aside is a £10 million gearbox. You can't really go and get one of these, can you?
There you go. If you make kit cars in a garage, please check that gearbox that you've put in.
If you see Ferrari on it, then I think you could probably retire on the sale of that. Now, the only other thing I thought with this, beautiful looking car, not worth 37 million. Yeah. You've got these now car companies are classic car renovators are using these machines which can replicate parts.
Is it like a 3D printer type thing?
They're using 3D printers to make parts for something like a 1922 Duesenberg. So all you need are the schematics from the original car. If you can still get hold of them, you enter that into the machine, and the machine, not so much print, but it will cut, I think, laser cut out parts.
Yeah.
Could you... I don't know how. I know it's going to be hard to rebuild a gearbox, but is it hard to build a gearbox from scratch?
I'd have thought that it would also. It probably would be, and it would probably get really hot, and
All right.
Probably not good.
Okay. Then my other suggestion would just be go and get an old Cortina gearbox and just whack it in. Nobody's going to
be fine. 4-speed, it'll be okay.
It'll be all right. Right, and moving on. And then if it ain't broke, don't fix it. News: Land Rover is preparing to extend its model lineup in 2 bold directions over the next 5 years. They will bring back the long-discussed entry-level Land Rover into the company's cycle plan, and the second is a new, more sporting, luxury version of the Defender. An expected target price of 25 £25,000, the entry-level 5-door model, codenamed L860, will be cheaper in real terms than any previous Land Rover model. Meanwhile, the luxurious 4th model in the Defender lineup is said to be a full 4 years away from being unveiled. It's expected to make its debut as a pure electric model with a sharper leaning styling, as well as highly luxurious interior and a price well into 6 figures. Yeah, good luck taking an electric 4x through
the mud.
Through the mud and through a river and through a ford. Good luck with that, folks. The £25,000 Land Rover styling is said to draw heavily on the new Defender, as well as referencing the original iconic Land Rover. But it won't be square-edged and mechanical. It's the controversial 2011 DC100 concepts. The interior also is expected to be referenced to the lean and functional look used in the new Defender. Although, given the price difference, a reduction in equipment and space is likely. It's not known yet how the L860 will be branded, but a junior Defender badge is unlikely because that new family is pitched as a more upmarket price point, and a Discovery family badge could draw away sales from Discovery Sport. So they're thinking it could be Land Rover 80, which will be a reference to the original wheelbase of the Series 1's machines, as well as sitting neatly below the badging of the new Defender. Okay, forget Defender. Defender's okay. I'm a Land Rover fan.
Yeah.
I've been making them since 1948. Forget the Defender name. Why not just call it the Series 4? Series 1, 48 to 52, 53. Then you've got Series 2, then you've got Series 2A, and then you've got Series 3.
Yeah.
Takes you up to about 78, then the Defender.
Yeah.
I'll just call it Series 4. I'm trying to work out, is the cheaper one going to be pure electric?
It looks like it by the looks of things.
Look, it's never going to move a couple of sheep from one field to another in something like that. You want something hard as nails, with a diesel engine, something that your sheep can poo in the back, and you can get a hose, literally get a hose, and hose out the back of the car.
It's a bit odd. So they've gone to two extremes. So number one, I'm concerned that, yes, it's electric. It wouldn't be able to afford any stream.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other end of it is they're saying that they're thinking about doing a sportier model.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Is that right?
The problem is that my friend of mine had one of the last Defenders, and it was a woman as well. She loved it because she said it's all things to all people.
Yeah.
So she could go off-roading in it. She could go to work in it, and you turn up in a nice-looking Defender somewhere, and people don't know how. You could be a farmer, you could be a builder, you could be the guy that owns the mansion, could be the guy that owns the town. It's a classless piece of machinery, and also it's a piece of machinery, and it's a look that everybody likes. Everybody loves a Defender. Nobody hates. Nobody looks at a Defender and goes. My son the other day, we walked past an orange. It was an orange Defender, and it was the brand. It was the Overland Explorer models, and I forget the.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he just went, "I love that car." He's 4 years old. I love that car. Everybody loves a Defender.
Yes.
So just keep making them. Call them Series 4.
I think we should write to the marketing department of Land Rover and tell them that you're missing a trick here. This is what you need to do.
I think so. The trouble is, I don't know whether the people in India are going to respond well to us.
Yes, they'll probably. Yeah, they won't be. They'll pass us on to a call centre.
Well, because the desire of the British farmer and people in the countryside is not really what's at the heart of what we're talking about here. There's not enough sales. What we're talking about is Jaguar Land Rover as a global brand. And it's required globally, and unfortunately, this is what will happen.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's very glum. So should we do some good news? Should we do some good news for the British car industry news? Aston Martin boss Andy Palmer says the new DBX production plant in St Athan in Wales, which, if I'm not mistaken, next door at the airport is where they recycle planes.
Oh, nice.
It was officially opened last week and will be hugely important to the firm's future growth. The facility, which occupies 3 converted super hangars, formerly part of the Ministry of Defence at St Athan site, will be the sole global production site for the firm's new luxury SUV. when full production begins in the second quarter of 2020, around 600 people will be employed at the factory, rising to 750 when peak production is reached. Palmer said that the opening of the plant was a quote-unquote pivotal day for Aston Martin and a vote of confidence in the UK. He added, the opening of St Athan is a hugely important milestone in the company's growth plan and integral to our ambitions as a global luxury brand. Aston Martin bought the former MOD site in 2016, the year that it also began training its first employees on the DB11 production line at its existing Gaydon plant, which is Birmingham, Oxford?
Oxford,
somewhere in between.
Stratford-upon-Avon. Yeah.
Okay. The first buildings, including the reception, restaurant, and offices, the most important parts, was constructed in 2017, with work to convert the hangars starting last year. So all good and being built in Britain.
Brilliant. I mean, I was slightly concerned because Land Rover, Aston Martin have obviously had financial problems the last sort of 2 years.
Figures aren't good.
They haven't posted a profit for a while. As far as I'm aware, the share price went down the Swanee in the last 12 months. So hearing this, it's good news. It's got to be good news.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a new Bond film coming out as well.
Nice.
Next year?
There is. Yes, it's a rather PC Bond film. Have you seen the trailer yet?
No, I'm not. I was tempted to watch it. I thought, no.
Bond is played by a one-legged blind lesbian who's transitioning. It's slightly PC for my taste, according to the trailer. Anyway, things may change, but yeah, it looks like it's. I don't think it'll be the end of the franchise, but I think it'll be a direction that the franchise won't go again in the future.
But hopefully that will give a boost to Aston.
Yes, let's get positive. Aston Martin, yes, great brand. Let's promote that. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Finally, in car election news, the UK will stage its third general election in 4 years. That's taking place today. I think they've currently got an hour and a half left. The results could have a major impact on motorists and the car industry. Brexit, good God, has been a key issue in the election, and Britain's ongoing relationship with the European Union could greatly affect the motor industry in this country. The leading parties have all unfurled their policies that are significant to car owners, including pledges to phase out the sales of combustion engine cars and cut carbon emissions. So, to be fair, just in case this does go out before voting closes, I have to sort of state in equal portion the three promises of each of the major parties, which are the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and the Liberals, in completely equal sections, so as not to influence anybody. If you are influenced by this programme on the which way to vote, then you need your head looking at. I don't think we're going to influence anybody, but you really do need your head looking at. The Conservatives want to leave the EU by the 31st of January, keep the EU out of the EU, so the UK out of the EU single market and customs union, and negotiate a new trade deal. But the implementation of this won't extend beyond December 2020. They want to chuck almost 40 billion in strategic and local roads, and they want to determine the earliest date for phasing out petrol and diesel cars and launch. This is interesting. The biggest pothole filling program yet. Meanwhile, the Labour Party want to secure a Brexit agreement within 6 months. Sounds very similar. Close alignment with the EU market and a wide customs union. Invest in 3 automotive gigafactories and 4 metal processing plants, promoting the development and manufacture of ultra-low emission vehicles in the UK. We'll give them a third one, and invest in electric vehicle charging infrastructure and electric community car clubs. So we've mentioned that earlier on. Finally, the Lib Dems are promising to revoke Article 50 and remain in the EU, develop a national skills strategy and innovation centres to develop zero carbon technologies, and they're promising to cut VAT on electric vehicles to 5%. To increase the rate of installation on the street and ultra-fast EV charging points. All a moot point. The election's already happened. I'm not sure I believe any promises, but we've done it there in 3 equal parts. And as the famous American author Mark Twain once said, if they thought it would make a difference, they wouldn't let you vote. And that will be the end of that. I believe we have the classic car selection.
Yes, we do. Good one this week.
Hang on, we got some music.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna. Yeah, all right. Enough of that.
It's time to don my smoking jacket and my cravat
Nice.
for this week's classic car. This week it's a two-door sports car, but also it's not only just a coupe. It's also a convertible. It is the Audi TT, specifically the Mark I version, which debuted as a concept in 1995. The cars were actually produced by Audi in their Hungarian plant, so unusual place for them to produce a car. The car was offered at both 2+2 coupe and as a two-seater roadster using the Volkswagen Group's A platform that is shared with the Golf and the A3. Therefore, it shared a lot of the power plants and the suspension pretty much across the Volkswagen Audi group. The car was styled in California, like Apple products, in 1994 and debuted in 95 at the Frankfurt Motor Show. The iconic design, because it is an icon, was credited to Freeman Thomas, which sounds like a home shopping catalogue, and Jay Mays. And Jay Mays, if you don't know, the latter is best known as the outgoing head of design at the Ford Motor Company, and he was the designer of the Mark III Ford Mondeo, which is why, if you look at it, it looks very much similar to the VW Passat, and that's one of the cars that he designed.
Didn't he used to present Top Gear, James May?
Jay Mays, not James
James
Mays.
Okay, sorry.
The launch was actually delayed with the TT due to new techniques of laser beam welding and also a lack of an automatic transmission, which eventually came out in 2006. It wasn't until the Mark II that the DSG gearbox, which stands for direct shift gearbox, was added to the lineup. The Audi TT, if you didn't know, also takes its name from the successful British Isle of Man TT races, the Tourist Trophy. But internally, Audi say that TT name has been attributed to the phrase technology and tradition. That's what they say it means. Early TT models received press coverage following a series of high-speed accidents, which occurred at excess of 112 miles an hour.
I remember
which obviously you can't do on these roads. During abrupt lane changes and sharp turns. Both the coupe and roadster variants were recalled in 1999 and early 2000 to improve the predictability of the car's handling at very high speeds. Audi added the electronic stability program or anti-slip regulation, which is ASR, and a rear spoiler was added also to the modifications, which later also included suspension changes and was incorporated to subsequent production. So, what do you look for in an Audi TT? Well, specialists and owners refer to the 1.8 turbo engine as bomb-proof, and they say there are several 200,000 milers knocking around to attest to this claim. But they must be well tended too. The cam belt and associated tensioners need replacing after 80,000 miles or 5 years at the very latest. If the engine goes pop because they failed, that's going to cost you $2,500 to rebuild. So check that it's got all the paperwork with it. It's important to see receipts to back up the stamp on the service book, particularly if the car is on its third or fourth owner who may have scrimped on the car's care. If it's also a V6 engine version, listen for a rattly cam chain. Some develop it as low as 40,000 miles, and replacing it is about £1,000 and taking the engine out. Yes, well, we say, is it a money pit? Well, I don't know, because we're going to tell you how much it's going to cost in a minute. Suspension is also an area of potentially large expenditure. The TT is a relatively heavy car, and the suspension suffers for it. If you're potentially going to purchase a TT and it bangs and knocks at the front end, because we all like a bang and a knock at the front end, on small bumps, it's possibly a sign of tired. It's possibly a sign of a tired front wishbone or shot front anti-roll bar. The TT is generally considered under-braked as well. So if you want to upgrade the brake pads, they start from about £100. And if you want the Brembo front disc, that's going to cost you about £1,200. But you don't have to go for those ones. As with bodywork and interior, rust is actually a rarity on these cars. However, you will find scuff alloys on these vehicles. The cabin is tough, and the dash pod failure, which is the dials on there, is an issue. Clues are inaccurate fuel tank and water temperature readings and missing pixels from the data panel. So beware. Specialists know that can now supply a recon unit for £300 fitted. I looked earlier today online and found a good spec 2003 model. Bear in mind that they stopped production of this Mark 1 in 2006. It was a 2003 1.8, which is the 180 bhp version, with 137,000 miles on the clock in silver in Maidstone, and you could pick that up for $1,499, so £1,499.
Whoa!
But
Yes.
if you spent a little more money,
Yes.
you can get the last 2006 model, which is a 3.2 litre V6 with 247 bhp, auto gearbox,
Nice.
and just 50,000 miles on the clock for just £4,000.
That's good. That's incredibly good.
That's really good.
Better than MX-5 territory, isn't it?
It is, but you've got under your foot a 3.0 litre V6 with 247 bhp.
Oof, I know which one I want to go to the south of France in, and it's not the MX-5. I saw the original Roadster, the ACT, just by chance, 1995 Geneva Motor Show.
Yes.
And I think it may have been a prototype because it was released in 96. So from my memory, it looked like something out of Flash Gordon. It had a hand-stitched leather on the two front seats, no rear seats, chrome rollover bars, roll bars on the back. It looked like something very Art Deco, very stylish. I mean, it comes with a bad reputation because it's seen as a bit of a girl's car and a bit of a hairdresser's car. And it's the same way that the MX-5 is. And if you go back to the 60s, the original E-Type was seen as this.
Yes.
But there's a guy that drives one down my gym, and you would not want to call him a big girl's blouse. He gets out of this thing, and I don't actually know how he gets in it, because he does resemble the Hulk slightly.
Really?
Yeah, big guy. A beautiful looking car.
They are absolutely, and it's funny. It's one of those designs where if you probably asked your son to draw a car, he would probably draw that shape. It's such a simple shape.
There's a touch of the original Porsche about it.
Yeah.
There's a touch of 1930s. I think it's the interiors will always look pretty on them. For £4,000, good grief! That's just a cheap.
I'm looking at the advert now.
It's going to cost you nearly £500 in road tax. I hate to tell you, it's going to cost you a lot to insure it if you haven't got decades of no claims. But heck, that's
run it for a while.
Run it for a while. Have fun. Shall we do some Lost Highways?
Yes, please. It is, of course, our Lost Highways feature. And if you haven't heard this show before, it's where listeners email us in and give us their favourite roads and the reasons why they love them. It could be that perfect stretch of tarmac with no speed cameras where you open the throttle and the barrel down the highway.
Yeah.
It could alternatively be a quiet country road that leads down to the coast. Whatever it is, you let us know your perfect driving road. We'll give you all the details in a bit.
Yes.
So let's do our first one. Carl emails from Yorkshire.
Oh.
He says he's a big fan of Buttertup's Pass. I've never heard that. What's the Buttertup Pass? If you only drive one road in Yorkshire, make sure it's the Buttertup's Pass. Despite only being short, it might be our favourite road in the UK, if not Europe. The closest thing you'll find in the UK to an Alpine Pass is an amazing 5.5 mile stretch from Thwaite to Halls in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales. Is simply stunning, he says, and guaranteed to get the adrenaline pumping. We do like to have adrenaline pumping. Tight and twisty with a steep climb. It cuts through some of the absolute spectacular scenery. You don't have to be driving fast to have bags of fun on this fantastic road. Drivers used to be wary of the sheer drop on one side and watch your speed. Some of the winding road sections are really challenging. So in our own country, we have some great roads.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. I've been over the Pennines before, from I think Halifax to Manchester.
Yeah.
In the winter, and that was fun in a very old Citroen.
Yeah.
It's a bit hairy because you start to get quite high up in the Pennines and thinking, I hope I'm getting to get to the other side. But I've never heard of this road. Butter Tubbs Pass. Sounds interesting.
Right answer.
Well, I know. It was the right answer. Thank you very much for that. I really should have turned my phone off. Now, if you were listening last week, right, actually, if you want to get in touch with Lost Highways, I'll give you the address. You can contact the Car-Boyz at car-boys with a Z at outlook.com, car-boys with a Z at outlook.com. Facebook, we are Car-Boys at Car-Boys 4 Zs, car-boys with a Z at Car-Boys with 4 Zs. Twitter, we are Car-Boys with a Z at car_boys with a Z. What was I saying? Yes, you may remember last week, Seb, 2799, wrote to us from the USA about a scary road called the Clinton Highway in New Jersey. Nothing to do with Bill and Hillary. No, they weren't burying bodies there. But apparently the local mafia were. We've had another email. It's getting worse, from Seb123. He said there's another road in New Jersey we should try. Oh, grief. It's called, wait for it, the Shades of Death Road.
Nice.
If the Clinton Road is the scariest road in New Jersey, Shades of Death has to be a close second. It's in central Warren County, New Jersey. The 2-lane road is 7 miles of terror. Sounds great. Running. I just wanted to get the rag top down. I've got a packed lunch. I've got some champagne. It's a 7 miles of terror running right along Jenny Jump State Forest near the I-80. If you can imagine something terrible, it's probably been said to have happened here. Legend says a band of anti-establishment types took to the woods around Shades of Death Road and often murdered each other and anyone else encroaching on their woods. Low-hanging branches are said to have been used in multiple lynchings. Others say that the road used to be just the Shades, but as more murders happened, of death got added. Right. The area around the road, such as Ghost Lake, offers its own spooky stories, like the cabin near Ghost Lake. All sorts of supernatural activities happened here. You might want to stay in your car because the nearby Bear Swamp is also known as Cat Swamp for its mean pack of wildcats. Gee whiz. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, Shades of Death was the site of at least 3 brutal murders. Oh, this sounds lovely. One man had his head caved in with a tire iron over a few gold coins. Well, thanks for that. It's just like a nice road to drive on and a horror road. You will never get Shades of Death. He doesn't say. Thank you for that.
Seb123 is probably a different account that Seb2799
I think it's the same,
has.
isn't it? It's Seb. For goodness sake, please take us seriously. Yes, please get in touch. If you want to get in touch with a serious road that you'd like to tell us about, rather than one that's going to scare us. Look, guys, Halloween ended over a month ago. Email the Car-Boys at car-boys at outlook.com. Car-boys at outlook.com. I guess it's the, yes, it is. It's the mailbag time.
Yes.
Now this is where we delve into your questions. I'll just give them the email addresses out. You can pose any question about a car you want us to review, about something wrong with your car, about advice about which car to buy. We'll try and answer it in the best way we can. Starting off, we've got Rachel in the West Country. That's near Somerset in the UK. She says she's got an old Fiesta, 1998. This is your neck of the woods, Simon.
Yes.
She loves it, but reckons it's had its last MOT. She's got $3,000 to buy a new small car. What should she go for?
$3,000. Fiesta, good and reliable.
Yeah.
And if it just breaks down, just chuck it away, get another one.
Yeah.
That's what I suggest. Yeah. Stick with a Fiesta, I would.
What she knows, or go down. I mean, I'd go down the Japanese route. You're going to get maybe a 10-year-old Honda Civic, maybe a
8-year-old Honda Jazz.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
I mean that
the
class you would have. What would you have? A Corsa in there as well. Polo.
Ford Ka.
Yeah. The first generation one.
I would say if you're happy with it, do you think there's been any difference in the quality of, say, a Fiesta from '98 to a Fiesta of 2008?
There is better materials inside, but it's still absolutely cracking to drive. My sister has a 2010 model Fiesta, and it just drives so nice.
Really nice and calm.
Yeah, it's really good in town. It's reasonably well equipped as well. So, yeah, I'd stick with the Fiesta.
Let's stick with that. Yes, sounds
fantastic.
Good.
There you go, Rachel.
Helps you, Rachel.
Yes. Next up, we have an email from Evan in New Hampshire, USA. They've been salting the roads recently.
Not New Jersey Death Road or whatever. Jason Death Road.
Yes, I don't think they're hiding like email servers. No, that's Clinton Road, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've been salting the roads recently. Is anything stopped?
Sorry.
I did not have
sexual relations with that girl. I just put my penis in her mouth.
Is there anything that will stop salt rotting your car?
Right. Okay. So
awful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know some parts, when you get into Canada, they don't use salt on the roads, but yeah, I think you do in New Hampshire. I think you do in Chicago. Yes. You certainly do all over the UK. It's called Better Cars. Cars are so much more better than they used to be 20 years ago. At the start of every winter, I jet wash the underside and wheel arches of my car. I do it at the start and at the end of the winter to get rid of all the salt that's sat next to the bodywork and the metal. It sits in the mud and it rots your car. Saying that, cars are a lot better than they used to be. There's lots of galvanized bodies. They're sort of great. They're not felt, but they're sort of a felt
liners in the wheels, isn't there?
In the wheel arches. I have a little trick where I get a Bic ballpoint pen, take the pen off, run the pen around the wheel arch of the car.
Ooh,
that scrapes all the mud off. But if you just get the jet wash in there, and just make sure to clean underside the car, the underside even more than the top, especially in winter.
Yes. If you've got one of those drive-through car wash things, they're also quite good. A lot of them do the underside as well for you. That's what it is. You just really need to make sure that the salt isn't under the car. I'm guessing, how does it affect aluminium cars? I'd have thought it wouldn't be too bad.
Aluminium does not rust; it corrodes.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Ferrous, non-ferrous. It does corrode, but at a lot slower rate than rusty cars, than steel. And I was going to say as well, this is quite important. Make sure your car, if you've got something classic and you're worried about it rotting, this is quite important. If you go out on the road and it gets wet, make sure that car dries off. So if you're one of these people that has a beautiful classic car and it sits in a garage, even if your garage is heated, leave the door open if your car's got wet. Let the air get around that car.
Yeah, I'm guessing if you've got the heaters on and it's parked in a garage, the moisture still just retains in the actual garage.
Yes. Try and get that, however cold it is, you want to get that moisture away from the car. So if you've just driven it, you've got it soaking wet, you've been at a fair old clip, had a lovely Sunday afternoon, drive into the garage by all means. Leave the garage door open for a few hours to let the moisture come off the car, because you might be able to chamois or as they say in America, chamois leather all the bodywork, or chamois the car, but you're not going to be able to get underneath the car where all the damage is going to be done by water sitting on metal parts. That'd be my advice. Good luck with that, Evan. Lacey 247 got in touch from Tottenham, London. Yay. She says she lives in a rather sketchy area. Doesn't want a car stolen. Any advice? I know, and Simon will back me up. The football team are very sketchy in that area.
No, they're not.
First off, my advice: buy a cheap car. Don't buy something nice. Don't buy a Maserati and live in Tottenham, or
or I don't know. I'm trying to think of sketchy areas. Say Hell's Kitchen in America, East LA. So
Clinton Road.
Clinton, the Shades Road or the Clinton Road. Don't leave anything inside it. Buy a cheap car. Get a solid cheap car. Never leave laptops or suitcases in it. And don't leave anything on show. Don't leave anything in the trunk. I had an Escort XR3i, and it got broken into in London years ago because some bugger saw me put a laptop case in the trunk,
Really?
in the boot. And guess what I had in that laptop case?
What?
I had a tin of gunk, some jump leads, and a jack. No laptop. So that would be my advice, to make it look like you don't have anything in the car. Simon? I'm guessing most cars have alarms now and immobilizers.
Yeah, they're not too bad. I suppose there's different parts of Tottenham that are good and different parts that aren't. But yeah, that's Tottenham, greatest football team in the world. That's
By that you mean soccer for our American audience.
Soccer. Yes, so I think that's good advice. Yeah, don't have anything on show. Make sure it's all locked, and make sure I know it seems ridiculous and it sometimes annoys me, but if you got one of those remote lock it, but just check that your doors are closed and it's properly secure.
And my advice as well would be to buy a Honda, which they all automatically lock themselves.
Ooh.
If you've got a Honda,
nice. Yeah.
You'll know that. My Civic does it. My old Civic did it. My Accord does it. It's quite annoying when you're like talking to somebody and you're about to get into the car. You unlock the car, and then a minute later it locks itself. Oh, I'm here. Anyway, I'm sure she could also move away from Tottenham. That would be the other idea. Go and live somewhere nice. Go and live somewhere nice. Okay, right. I'm sure Tottenham's a lovely place. Finally got James in Newcastle. Hawaii wants to move some rubble. That was a terrible impression. Hawaii. It sounded like I was having a stroke. Wants to move some rubble from a dug-up driveway to the local tip. Should he use his car leak? He's got an old BMW estate and he thinks it'll be fit for purpose. Hey, guys, what do you think? In a word, no. I once went to Wick's DIY store. Other DIY stores are available, and I bought something like 20, maybe 20 concrete blocks I'd ordered in advance. And I pushed them out on a big trolley and started loading them into my wife's very small Honda Civic.
Yes.
The exhaust was nearly touching the floor, and I gingerly drove the car home at no more than 20 miles an hour. Not a great idea. I would go and... Do you know what I'd do? I'd go and hire a skip.
Might be easier. I mean, especially in London, you've got lots of speed bumps and things like that, so that's also going to do some damage.
Yeah, no, he's in Newcastle. I don't know what they've got.
Yeah, but it's probably...
Do you know the other thing you could do? This is an idea, and this is what a friend of mine did, is take the rubble, put it all on one side. He's obviously redone his driveway. And tell people that you've got free hardcore for sale. So if somebody wants to line it, because somebody might want to make a new driveway and might want some hardcore free to. I dug up my own driveway 5 years ago, and I went into the garden. I dug up a load of topsoil. And I bagged it all up. And rather than take it to the tip in my car or get a skip, I put it out in bags and I put an advert, I think, on Craigslist and said free, and with the Richmond Council website. And there's another app called Nextdoor. And I said free to whoever wants to pick it up. And
take it away.
A woman was building raised beds for her disabled mother in her own garden. And the soil is fine, but it's got loads of bulbs in it. She said, oh, fantastic, because we'll see what comes up in the spring. I did a good turn and I got rid of some rubbish. If you would like to send us your questions, the mailbag is always open for inspection. It's car-boys@outlook.com, car-boys@outlook.com, and we'll endeavour to answer your questions, be they motoring related or not, but probably best if they are motoring related. Don't give us any ones about advice on your sex life or your marriage. We won't be able to help you. I think we might do a car quiz if I can get this.
Yes.
Here we go. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And
Welcome to one of the greatest. Oh, there we go. Thank you. It's this week's car quiz. Thank you very much. Yes, it's called Shush, Don't Mention the War, all the worstest link. Das ist einen sausage jokes meinen Menschen. All right, thank you very much. Yes, it's about the country that makes some of the world's greatest cars and some of the most memorable dictators. Of course, Germany, where you can freely drive over 100 miles an hour on the Autobahn, but it is strictly verboten to make jokes of any kind. No making the jokes, no making the laugh, and it is something strange, some strange Teutonic porn movie. Yeah, that is good in meinen Arschen. Well, this week we welcome a young man, Simon, all the way from tropical Enfield. He's here to play a game of chance, and the game, of course, we like to call the Versist Link. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Thank you.
All the way from London.
Thank you.
Yes, they're loving you, this audience. Yeah, he's trying to answer questions about German cars, German car makers, that he can, in hopes of scooping up a one-way trip to Dresden on a wet Wednesday afternoon, courtesy of Harry's hopeless coaches of Grinstead. What a super smashing prize. Simon, are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
Link.
You're looking forward to this.
Here we go. The W for question 1. The W113 Mercedes SL was better known by which nickname given to it because of the shape of its hard top roof? Is it A, the Silver Arrow, B, the Landau, or C, the Pagoda?
Ooh, what is it? 1110?
113 Mercedes
13.
L. Was it A, the Silver Arrow, B, the Landau, or C, the Pagoda? I think we're looking at mid-1960s.
So I'm guessing that was Silver Arrow's kind of nickname for the race cars. Middle one was, what was the middle one?
Landau.
Landau.
Martin.
I didn't know there was another. I'm going for C, Pagoda.
Yes,
yeah.
Of course. It was the Pagoda, one of the most classic car designs of all time, the Pagoda. Moving across down to Bavaria, the first BMW 6 Series is a popular classic today, thanks to its smart looks and its modern driving experience. Which code name did BMW give to the 6 Series?
Grief. This is current 6 Series, yes?
Yes, I haven't actually underlined the answer. This will be interesting. Was it the E34, E36, or the E24? I have no idea what the answer. I think I did this in highlighted it in red and I printed in grayscale. Never mind. We'll get there between us.
E20, E36, E30.
E36,
What are the options?
E34, or E24?
I'm guessing like the E24 would be something like. No, E36 was the. I'm going to go for 24.
You're doing well. It was the E24. Next time, I will be printing out in colour. Short-lived Audi 50 provided the base. Oh no, sorry. We're going on to question 3. Question 3. Yes. The Little Prinz was manufactured by the NSU, which was eventually bought out, I believe, by VW. The initials stood for Nacht und Strict Union, but what was the surprising translation of the name of NSU? Nacht und Strict Union. Was it A, the Knitting and Sewing Union, B, the Swimming and Diving Union, or C, the Noughts and Crosses Union? NSU.
NSU, I thought that was the National Union of Students. It would be...
No!
No, doesn't that mean night? Night? No, it can't be.
Night? No. Nay und Strict Union. N-A-E-H. That's what it says there.
I'm going to get... What was the last one? Stitching?
Nay und Strict Union.
Nay und Strict. I'm going to go for C.
No. You should have stayed with the Knitting and Sewing Union.
Ooh.
Because, like Singer, NSU used to originally manufacture sewing machines.
Okay.
I totally went for noughts and crosses union too. I was like, really? Okay, we're moving over to Audi. The short-lived Audi 50 provided the basis for which popular Volkswagen model? A, Polo, B, Golf, or C, Passat?
Oh, Polo Golf or Passat. 50. I'm not sure what now. 50. I'm sure Audi 80 was quite big, so I'm guessing it's going to be small. So I'll go for Polo.
Bing! You are correct. The short-lived Audi 50 was the model that the Polo was eventually Mark 1 was eventually
Okay.
based upon. Right, we're moving across to the east now. The Wartburg 353, known by some owners as Farty Hands for its distinctive two-stroke exhaust note. It was officially badged here in the UK. I find this hard to believe, but it was officially badged here in the UK as A, the Prince, B, the Regent, or C, the Knight.
Oh, I've never heard of it. So I'm going to guess.
Yeah, go on.
B was Regent, C was Knight, A was
Prince. Yes.
No, because we had a princess here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Regent.
I'm afraid got that one wrong. It was the Knight. No, I'd never really heard of it. I don't think it sold in massive. The Wartburg Knight, a medium-sized family car produced in East Germany, and sold over here to goodness knows who.
Never heard of it.
No, not a very pretty car. Very, very boxy. Very similar to the Lada. Original Beetle was a very popular car made by VW for almost 70 years. In which year was the last one made? The original Beetle. In which year was it last made? And I'm going to be harsh here. I'm going to say 2001, 2002, 2003.
So those last ones were
made
built in Brazil?
Slightly higher, slightly further north. Slightly more, dangerous
Mexico.
place.
Oh, Mexico.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We did this weeks ago on
2002 or 2003.
The law changed, so I think it was 2003.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. There was one up in Richmond Town Centre the other day, and it was a 53, and it looked amazing. I was just like, that looks so cool.
Wow.
And obviously, it's an import all the way from Puebla, Mexico. Right. Which German city from Mexico over back to Germany? In which German city is home to Porsche, or as my daughter said once, Porsche?
I can do this without any options.
Okay. Really? Okay, I'm going to give you the three options. Is it A, Berlin? Is it B, Stuttgart? Or is it C, Hanover?
If you look at the Porsche badge...
Yes.
It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Stuttgart?
Yes! It is the state of Baden-Württemberg. So the badge on the front is the logo of the German state of Baden-Württemberg. And that's the badge. And my father went cycling in Germany in the 1950s as a small boy. Yeah. And he has a badge with all the badges of West Germany on it. And one of those is a little Porsche badge.
Oh, nice.
It's very cool. Okay. What has been Germany's best-selling car brand over the past 44 years? Is it A, BMW, B, Mercedes, or C, or Volkswagen?
I'm going to go for the people's car. It's got to be Volkswagen.
Yes, of course you're correct. It was, of course, Volkswagen. What was the original size of the engine in litres? Because we are in Europe. Question 9. What was the original size of the engine in litres as we are in Europe? I will accept CC. Of the original Mercedes Grosser 600 V8, produced from 1963 to 1981, the third world dictator's car of choice, the Mercedes Grosser 600 V8. What was the size of the engine? Was it A, 6.8 litres, B, 5.6 litres, or C, 6.3 litres?
Ooh. Now, this is a tricky one because I watched this on an old episode of a British motoring programme here with Jeremy Clarkson and James May, and he was driving around a green Grosser. I think, off the top of my head, it was 6.8.
6.3.
Oh,
But you're nearly there. The closest to the 600 was the 6.3, which is 6,300 cc, an absolute monster of a car. And everything on that car hydraulic.
Yes.
Everything hydraulic. The windows hydraulic, the boot catch hydraulic. Great looking car. Final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
In 1954, Mercedes released their most iconic car of all time, arguably. It produced a car for the next 10 years. It was the S300 Gullwing. Now, only 1,400 of the coupe and the Roadster were ever made. But what was the original price in 1954 of the Gullwing in America? 1954, a long time ago, you could probably buy a house for threepence halfpenny. Was the original price in America 10,950, A, B, 17,500, or C, 21,600? Bearing in mind that this car now is worth well over £1 million.
Oh, it's
A,
for rarity.
950, B, 17,500, or C, 21,600. 1,400 ever made of the coupe and the Roadster.
How many years ago was this?
1954. I think
I'm...
you'd probably buy a house in England for £1,000.
Oh, so anyway, you'd still... Wow. I'm going to go for C. 20... Was it 27,000?
21,600.
21,600.
This is going to shock you. You walk it. Don't worry. Your bendy bully's safe, and
okay.
As is your Angela Merkel. Your big lump of sauerkraut. 10,950, the lowest price. That's how much. If you'd have bought a Gullwing, Gullwing, not the Roadster.
Yeah.
You could have bought one in America for 10,950. This is going to shock you even more.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that in Europe, that car cost less than £5,000. $5,000.
Wow.
So in America, it was 10,950. You could have bought it in Germany or the UK for around about $4,500.
So you could buy two for the price of one.
Pretty much over two, 60% less, 60% more, I should say, in America. 60% more.
Wow. Why was that?
I don't know. Import duty. America trying to protect their home manufacturing market. And in 1954, the Germans were producing hardly any cars.
Wow.
So, yeah, what a really,
amazing.
Really strange story. But anyway, yes, you've won a fantastic Parker pen, and you won't get anything cheaper than this. You've got that one-way trip to Dresden, which, of course, you're going to love. And thank you very much for taking part in our show. Don't mention the war. Or the versus link. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we actually enjoyed having you. We had a good time.
Oh, brilliant. I'm educated on this now.
Yes, you had a good time learning all about German cars. Well, thank you very much for tuning into the show this week. Have you had a good time, Simon, generally?
It's been a good show. It's
all
been
right.
good. Yeah.
You know, knocked out the door with. That's what we do. That's it from us this week on Car-Boyz. Email the boys at carboys@outlook.com. We will endeavour to answer any sort of questions. If they're rude, we'll still endeavour to answer them. It's carboys@outlook.com. Boys always with a Z. Facebook, we are car-boys with a Z at Car-Boys. 4 Z's at the end. It's car-boys at car. All the boys with a Z. Twitter, we are car-boys at car_boys. Now go away, get a life, and vote in an election somewhere around the world. Say bye, Simon.
Bye, Simon.